Well, good morning. I guess we got a couple more minutes, see if we get anyone else in. It looks like we have a little bit of attrition. Any leftovers from last week? Any questions, clarifications, anything we want to recover? Yeah, sure.
I missed last week, but the week before I had in my note something that I wanted to ask, and that is, what is the meaning of flattening a photograph?
Okay, flattening, if you have multiple layers in Photoshop, there's two processes that you can perform. One is merging of layers, which makes one layer out of them, and flattening really does the same thing. And I don't actually know the technical difference between them, but basically it takes all of your layers and gets rid of the individual controls at each layer and makes one image, one layer out of them. And I don't know, I really don't know the difference between flattening and merging of layers.
The result is the file size becomes smaller because you're not keeping all that data? Right. Now, somewhere along the line that changes, but it really makes the biggest effect when you save it or export it. Right? But flattening, yeah, we did go through some of that last week. We created a layer stamp. We'll probably do that today, where we take all the layers here, and we want to kind of work on that set as a single image. So we can take that and we rolled them up into a single layer, which is really the same thing as flattening or as merging layers, but it leaves the other layers intact. We'll go through that again today because we'll be doing some more things like that. That's an irreversible thing when you flatten, right?
Flatten is irreversible, right? Unless you're still, if you haven't closed Photoshop, you can go back in history and undo it, or Control Z or Shift Alt Z or whatever, Control Alt Z.
Go back, pick up anywhere you want in your history.
Right.
Start over again.
Right. As long as you haven't.
From that point down,
once you close it, it's gone. That's right. Again, different from Lightroom, whereas your history remains intact, your steps remain intact all the way, even if you save it. Well, you didn't save, right? In Lightroom, you don't save, right? It's just automatically there for you.
There is an option in the menu that in the menus that you can save your history as well. I didn't know that the other day.
Okay, well that's good.
I
Can
didn't
you
know
open
that.
it back up?
That's what I didn't do it because I figured that would take a lot of space. So, but I noticed it.
Yeah.
And I've never seen that before, so I found that interesting.
Yeah, I would wonder how much of the history. I mean,
Yeah,
certainly
I
all the
didn't
steps
try.
in history.
I just saw it.
Huh? Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it just.
Yeah. I don't know if it would take any more space.
I don't either.
I mean,
I just, here lately I've been doing things and then I regret doing them. So
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah, I understand. So much in life is like that. Anything else? Any other? Has anyone taken it upon themselves to try any of these things? Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah?
Does anyone want?
Have you tried any of these processes?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, if you'd like to bring something in maybe next week and we can, go look at them and discuss them, or if you don't want to do that, I understand. I mean, I'm happy to, to kind of go through some of the things that we're working on. So if you haven't done it and you want to make some experiments and bring them in, we can look at them. And, okay. All right. So today we went through the. Yes.
If we started just side thought, if you take an image like from, say, the elements,
Right.
take a picture out of it, create a photograph, when you bring that in Photoshop, you still have the same quality, do you know?
Quality transfer between anything has to do with the format of the image that you save. Okay, so if it's a JPEG, JPEG is lossy, so if you go from, even within Photoshop, right, if you save it, copy it, bring it up again, make modifications and save it as JPEG, you'll have some loss.
Can you get that back ever?
No,
It's
it's gone.
once you do JPEG, you better have another one saved with everything in it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. There is a 100% JPEG. There's 100% high quality JPEG, but I think just the fact that it's JPEG means that there's some loss inherent in the format itself. If you want to keep highest quality, the best one is TIFF. Okay, that's just bitmap. It's every pixel, every byte.
Yes.
PSD is the same. It will work just as well.
What's the minimum, or I mean maximum for mailing? If you want to mail somebody a photo.
Email?
Yeah, email, right.
Yeah, it depends on the email. Yeah.
You can, very easiest thing these days is if you have a free Dropbox account, 5 gig, or whatever it is.
Oh, that
And
way.
then you make a link, and you email the link to whoever you want
Yeah.
to, and it's private, and
Got
they
it.
can download.
But you can check your server.
Yeah, okay.
They'll tell you what the maximum size of the.
And Google Drive will do it too. I've always used Dropbox for that. Just sends the image.
Okay,
And it's real
thanks.
easy.
When you do that, you got to consider the recipient. Okay, because
Yeah.
if I send it to my mother,
Right. No, I'm
Okay,
sending it to my
and I
son
send
who's
it-
in IT.
okay, then he can handle it. But if you send something that's actually bigger than the screen that they're looking at, it's going to be like this, but you know that. Okay, good.
But if you're sending the JPEG, it's not that huge.
I know, but you won't want to print them. You'll just want to look
I
at them.
send to my mother's iPhone.
No, well, that's what I'm saying from an email perspective.
Yeah.
God forbid he is mine.
Sorry.
Actually, he has.
Jeff just brought this to my attention. It has nothing to do with Photoshop. It's a new browser called Vivaldi. It's by combination of Opera and Chrome.
The original publisher is the Opera House out of Sweden that ran Opera for about 7 or 8 years successfully.
What's the name of this one?
It's called Vivaldi, like the violin, like the violinist. Vivaldi.
I just downloaded it and installed it, and it seems pretty quick.
Came
So
out 2 weeks ago, and it's highly customizable.
Is it cross-platform or just Windows?
I didn't ask that question.
I would bet that it's cross-platform because Opera was, and Chrome is. So anyhow,
How do you spell that?
Vivaldi. Vivaldi. Italian, right? Okay. So I got a couple things. Again, kind of the same, but I'd like to talk about being able to cut out, make selections, and there are a couple of techniques here that I'm going to stumble through. And I always find myself stumbling through making selections because they can be pretty complex. I mean, especially trees and hair, right? I mean, because you got the fine stuff. If you have straight lines or highly defined edges, it's pretty easy. And you asked about faces, right? About doing portraits.
I did, yeah, I see one.
I don't know what we were going at. So just using a face in a composition?
Yeah,
All right.
anything.
All right. Well, we'll take this girl.
Okay.
I mean, I picked this image because it's not fixed, right?
Right.
I mean, she's got blemishes and
Circles under the eye.
yeah. So, but I don't want to get into how do you fix those things because that's really not what we're talking about.
Okay.
But we can take this face and we can use it in a composition.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And I also got a couple of these right here. I've got, part of the issue with making selections is separating the image from the background. I mean, that is what it is, right? That's the whole point. So in some cases, I have the ability to control my background. And in those cases, I do. So I routinely carry around a whiteboard. This is just a white piece of cardboard that I either prop behind or hold or have somebody hold behind. There are issues with it. Exposure, right? Because now you've got a white background that you need to work against and counteract. But if your purpose is to make a selection, boy, there it is. That's the easy way to go. So I don't know if you call that cheating or not, but if you're after the result, how you get there is, right? The ends justify the means.
Could it ever be light gray or
It is like right at the top.
yeah,
This is gray only because I haven't adjusted it,
because you didn't adjust it, right?
right? And when I aimed the camera at it, I wasn't really careful, right? So what I got exposed for there. So that's my gray. And if you look at the histogram here, it did a really nice job. You can see, there's some white, which is down here probably. But anyhow, we can fix that, but we really don't need to. So what I want to do, and we'll just start with this one just because it's up here. What I want to do here is make some primary edits in here just to get the colors kind of right. And so let's go into develop. So we're going to start with Lightroom, obviously. And we'll just, let's do a white balance just because, okay, so that's actually was pretty well balanced. I mean, it didn't change this at all. And I would expect that because, the camera did a pretty good job of picking that out. Let's change the exposure a little bit and bring that up so that I have a whiter background. How are the highlights? Let's see. Okay, so my highlights are right there, which makes sense. That was the white area. That's going to be the highlight. How about shadows? I don't really have anything that's in really dark shadows. I'm going to do an automatic white adjustment, which is the shift double click on the white, shift double click on black. I mean, I've worked with those two sliders a lot manually, and you can use the Alt or Option key and drag, and it will give you that same kind of black on white difference. But I find that Lightroom does a pretty good job of figuring out for me. Here's another analogy. The new Ferrari has a 15-speed automatic transmission. Right. I mean, okay, so their point is they want to optimize the RPMs, right, and the horsepower to the speed that you're going and the acceleration that you want. And so they've devoted, I'm going to guess, millions of dollars to developing the logic behind that 15-speed transmission. You think you can do it better manually? Do you think? So that's kind of my assumption here is that they're doing a pretty good job of this automatically, and I probably can't do anything better with it by hand. So I may be wrong.
So you have the guilt of using the machine, the technology, and not your own labor with your fingers.
Yeah, is that guilt? I guess.
Like a player piano.
Yeah,
Unless you
kind of.
wanted a different effect. If you wanted, quote, realism,
Yeah.
you could just use it. If you wanted something different, you would.
Absolutely.
Or if you wanted to do a Monet or a Degas kind of thing, then you have to do it.
Well, then I'd use a different plugin, right? I'd use a Topaz, for that, because, boy, that'll do it like that. Yeah. And I'm going to bring up the clarity just a little bit because I want to separate the reds and vibrance maybe a little bit, just to see what I need. So, all right, can you see the adjustment in there? Can you see what's going on? Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe saturation just a little bit, not much. Yeah. Okay, so that's really all I want to do with this in Lightroom. And let's just take this into Photoshop. And I'm going to make a copy with Lightroom adjustments. Okay, remember, if we do just a copy, I'm not going to get the adjustments. I'm going to get the original before I made these. So I do, in this case, want to make the adjustments, and we see that this is a JPEG anyhow. All right? So I'm not losing anything because of RAW. So we'll just bring that up into Photoshop. And because of the way I shot this, because of the white background, we're going to be able to use some really simplistic selection tools. All right, I'm going to hit the hand here 2 times, and that'll bring it up to full size. Clicking the hand twice gives you fill. It fills the screen with the image. And since we do have pretty much a one color here, I'm going to use the quick selection tool. This one right here. And I'm just going to kind of start here, and you can see that it's automatically, can you see the marching ants? Okay, I'm just going to go down here. All right. And I'll just kind of drag around in here so that I've got all the places that I want to cut. All right, pretty good. You also see I missed, right? The tool missed because that up there is lighter. It's closer to the white than to the pink. This in here, there's probably some other places. So the first job is to go back and include those. And hold down the Shift key, and you'll see that my little dot here turns to, you can't see it, turns to a plus. Let's see if I want to increase the size of this. There we go, plus. I'm holding, well, Shift key, yes. All right, Shift key, actually it is a plus already. So now what I want to do is, but I want to minus. Okay, because I've selected out the white. What I want to do is get rid of that. So I'll hit the Alt or Option key, and I'll drag in here. And you can see that it's picking it up. I'll let go of it, and you see where it took that extra piece there? Can you see that? There's some white in there. I'm going to move my brush down a little bit. Okay, and just click in there. The white is what I'm selecting, okay? So yes, so I'm going back and forth between adding and subtracting. So like right in here, I want to... Right. And it gets a little bit, you know, a little bit tricky. And sometimes you just, you know, you can't. And that's...
Can you zoom in on that?
You sure can. So we'd hit the zoom here. But you can see how how that's... All right, let's make it smaller.
I can't see. You're getting those back eyes with a different color too. We're getting your selection.
I'm trying to work around this. All right. And I may not be able to. Let's see if we can get this in here. Oh, got one in here too. All right.
Since you have a fairly consistent background, isn't there a way to do it with color values also?
Yes. Yep, we'll do that too. I want to take this through as far as we can get it. Okay, so now I've got a selection here, and I can delete the background. But what's going to happen here is that these edges are very sharp. Okay, let's just don't want content aware. well, actually, we're not going to do that. I'm going to go into refine edge. Generally speaking, you always want to go to refine edge. Did you see where it was? No. Right up here at the top. If you're in one of the selection tools, you'll have this right here, this refine edge. And that allows you to look at what you've selected or what you haven't selected. And actually, since it's telling me that I've selected the background, I'm going to reverse it. So select, inverse. Now refine edge. So let's just go down this right here, the view mode. So you see that it replaced that with pink, which actually is the default, but in this particular case, it's the wrong color. Let's just put it on black. So you have this option of, so here's the layer, right? So this is what I actually want to achieve, is I want to get the checkerboard background so that whatever that I put it in front of comes out. But let's look at black and change. You can see in here, let's just, I don't know if we can't boost that moment. If you want to help and fix this, make our brush a little bit bigger, and we'll go into this tool right here, which is the edge. Change our radius, and I'll show you what happens here. Okay, if I just paint over this, it's going to go back in and it's going to try to fix. You see that come in? See that?
What's that tool called?
That's called the refine tool. This one right here, this little brush. So refine radius. So we can go in here and just kind of paint over the edges.
We're increasing the radius.
I increased the radius to 3.7 pixels. Let's bring it down a little bit because it's looking a little bit extra to me. Okay, that looks better. Let's paint over this thing right here. And did you see that? So there's a white here that I really didn't want. So we'll paint over that. Let's do it up here. So you can spend quite a bit of time in here.
Is there a way to unwrap this in terms of, you know, there's people who do the competitions and judges can tell often what kind of processing you do, and once you're done, you can't probably on this, or
I would think that if you save it as a JPEG, probably not much because you can't step backwards. But if the judges really know their stuff, they're going to say, no, we want the original, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, who is it? Sports Illustrated has said they don't want any raw images. Now, that doesn't make much sense to me, but they've said they don't want raw images because they can be modified.
Well, don't a lot of sports people shoot JPEGs because they have to get them all
quick,
uploaded
right?
And all that, so.
Right, and I think that's where they were going with that.
Well, is it a truth-telling thing too?
I think also, yes.
Yeah.
But you can modify anything.
Yeah, but if everybody knows that they have a rule like that, then
right.
Everybody knows that they only get JPEGs.
JPEGs
what
unmodified.
You see is what actually
Why can't you modify it as you want?
And then do
Merge the JPEG.
Oh, you shot me.
Yeah.
That's not going to work.
The logic of their decision doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Nat Geo goes the other way. They insist on the original raw file.
Who?
National Geographic and National
Oh, okay, right.
Before you even process it, I mean, I guess they want the process one too. They want to see that you didn't add a person.
They want to see the original photograph or something, or untouched.
Yeah.
Whatever you're turning in.
Yes.
Which makes sense.
Right. That I understand.
Yeah.
The Sports Illustrated one, I really don't. Okay, so we've got a pretty good cutout here. Certainly, again, for the purposes that we're making here, that's really close enough, right? So how close is close enough? That's pretty close. And I'll just go through these other adjustments here. The adjust edge allows you to smooth, feather, change the contrast, or shift. Let's just look at smooth because that's an important one. So you can actually bring this in and smooth it out. It really doesn't do much with this one here, but the shift edge does. So the shift edge shifts the line here. So if I want, see, I can see a little bit of fringing in there, over there. So if I want to, I can shift the edge in and contract it. Let's see here. I don't know that I can change the size here. Now, while I've got the tool over, oh wait, here it is, here it is. Okay, you're right. There we go. All right, a little rough still here. All right, so let's go back to here and see if we can get that any better. Yep. Okay. It's not so bad over here because these were pretty defined. Okay, so let's just take this shift edge and we'll move it in a couple of points. Okay. It's better. If we go too far, then it really gets kind of crazy. Okay? Okay? Right.
So that's really decreasing the radius.
It's taking the lines and moving them in. Okay, so we're cutting off part of the image. If you're decreasing, if you're shifting the edge in, you're making the
But you select where you want that.
It's the whole image.
It's a whole image.
The whole image.
The whole image.
So when I shifted the edge, it's taking all of those marching ants and moving them into the selection area.
It's typically a couple pixels, 2 or 3 pixels at once, or?
Yeah, as you can see, it depends, right? I had to do quite a bit to get that stuff from above there, right? So I'm at 50 pixels, which is a lot, okay? But it did a pretty good job. And we were lucky, it really didn't do much out here. Let's see what we missed. So let's take a look at these edges here while I bring it back to 0. Pretty good, pretty good. All right, so in this particular, now there I'm going the other way. I'm shifting out. So there's 100 pixels out. So we'll bring it in here to, okay, that's actually pretty good, right? So let's go back to normal here. All right, so now I have a really good selection. So next thing we want to do is, what are we going to do with this selection? Pardon? So we can, we've made a selection. We haven't edited, we haven't modified the image yet. All we've done is selected an area. And first I selected the background, and then I inverted it so that the flower image, the actual content that we want to keep, is selected. We did the refine edge on that, changed the edge location by shifting it, and now we can do something with it. Now we can save it. So we could save it just as a selection. Typically, I don't want to do that. I could save it as a layer mask, which is also a selection. A new layer with layer mask, a new document. I'm going to put it as a new layer with mask. Okay? So you'll see what that does when I hit OK. So over here on the side, all right, I have my background down here, and I've got my same image with a layer mask behind it. So I now have the ability to work with this mask. Remember, as we were working with these layers, the part of this layer panel that's got the highlighter around it is the one that's active. So right now, my layer is active, my image area. If I click on the mask, you see that the mask is selected. Okay? Now that I have a mask, and probably not a whole lot I want to do with this right here, but I'll just make a point. I can now use the mask and I can paint on the mask. Okay? Black reveals, black hides, white reveals. So if you look at that mask, you see that, okay, the flower portion of that is white, it's revealed. The background is black, it's hidden. So if I want to hide something else, let's just say I want to hide some of this down here. I can go into my mask, pick up my brush, be sure that black hide is my primary color. And now, set my opacity. I'll just bring it up all the way. And I want to get rid of this. Okay, and I don't like this little guy out here. Okay? By the same token, I can shift these back around, bring this in, and I can paint this back in. Okay, so I wanted that stalk. So I just paint it back in. All right? Same with this little leaf here. Now, I'm not being, terribly precise here, but you get the idea. So as you look at this, you can see areas that you may want, like the bottom of the flower right here is all transparent. I really want that to be part of the image. And believe me, you can spend hours on this. So I could have done that same job by using an eraser tool on the image portion, right? Over here I could have selected the image, and I could have picked up the eraser, and I could have erased this stuff here. But then my pixels are gone. So if I go back over here, and let's say I want to bring, I want to bring some of this back. So I'll then go back in here, and I can bring that portion back. Okay? Because I haven't erased it, I haven't gotten rid of it. Right? Okay, so now I've got a selection. I'm going to just, for the grins, I'm going to save this. And I'm going to save it as a TIFF. Yep. So that was one selection criteria. You asked about color range, all right? And color range.
So when you say that, you were saving the mask, or you were saving?
I saved the entire thing, everything over here. I saved these layers. So I still have the background.
Everything there is saved.
It's not visible, but I've saved that, and I've saved this, okay? So let's go back. Still saving. 200 megs. That's 200 megs right there. All right. Let's turn on the background and turn off this, and let's select the background. Now let's do another selection criteria. And we won't actually go through all the processes of this, but we'll do it to see it. And we'll go up here. Rather than using a selection tool, we'll go here at selection, select color range. And by the way, as you start to look at this color range and focus area, how's it going to do focus area? I don't know that we'll get into that, but that has to do with the sharpness of the pixels. Okay, so if you have a close-up of a flower and a bunch of background that's out of focus, that can help you there. Let's just do color range. And what is the color range that we want to pick? As soon as this comes up, we get our eyedropper. And I'll just pick in here. And you can see that does a pretty good job, but it's going darker to lighter, right? I can say, okay, that's pretty good, but I also want to pick up the next other colors, so I'll hit this little plus right here, and I'll start adding color ranges. Yeah, it has a little plus on it. if you wanted to remove colors, this one here has the minus on it. Over here is the fuzziness. Let's just cancel this out and do it again. Select color range. And I pick this. Okay, fuzziness says, well, I want gray, but I want more ranges of gray than that. Okay, so we can bring it up. And now you start to see that it is starting to take some of the greens. Okay, so you want to balance your selection between that and between using the actual plus key. Then you can invert it. And basically we're back to where we were. From here, I'd go in and do the same kind of...
So if you have those colors within your portion that you want to save, you're going to lose those doing it this way?
Yep. Yep. Depends on the image, you know, like everything else.
But can't you go back and touch them with the minus?
Sure. It would minus the color, not that particular location. Okay? However, for that, you've got your localized color, right? So let's go back and invert this. So localized gets more specific. Okay, it means within this area. So if I have things that are cut off, so that would help with that kind of thing. If you've got the same color, you can use localized and then go in and pick. Okay. All right. I'm not going to do this one. So at this point, we've got our background. I mean, our image.
Before you did, have you done the selection for color range?
That's what I just did.
You just did.
Right.
You can go from there to where you can refine the edges like
Right.
you did on the previous selection.
Right. Once I did that color selection, I'll just do that again here. Okay, select color range. Yep. Okay, we'll just say we got it, and then I'll hit OK on that. And see the marching ants? Okay. I need to go back into my brush, and now I've got the refine edge.
You do exactly the same thing you did before.
Same thing, right, right. Yeah, this did a pretty good job, actually, the color range. Yep, pretty good job. Notice it got this here, these edges better than our previous version.
You don't need to do that again.
Yeah, no, but yes, same process. Oh, turn it back on here, but I need to Control D to deselect. Go back up to here. Okay, got that. All right, let's go over to Lightroom and pick the images that we want to combine this with. I don't really see much here that makes any sense. You could put it in her hair maybe, but all right. Let's see what kind of backgrounds we have here. I've got a couple. Well, let's take this, for instance. That's not, and maybe that. That's good. Okay, with these, I'm really not going to edit these, so I'll just take the original. I don't need another copy of them. I'm just taking those images and I'm going to open them up here in Photoshop. And so now I have my text, I've got a texture, and I've got a background. So let's first work with this. Let's take the background here, and remember I can drag it up and I can drag it down, or I can select it. Let's just do that one. I can do a Control A, all, select my move tool, either there or V, and Control C to copy it. And then I can go over to here, and I'm going to put my, I'll put it there, and Control V to place it. Yep, it's going to convert the colors because I didn't have similar color ranges between the two. So now I've got a background. That background layer is selected. Control T for transform. So he says, there it is. And we'll just kind of drag that out. Yeah, love that. All right, and we apply it. Sure. So I went here, I copied it, right? Control A copies the entire image. Control C, or we can go edit here and copy, right? Control C or copy. And then I go over to this one here. I'll put my, I'll select the layer that I want to apply. Whatever layer I select, if I paste, the new image is going to be placed above it, right? So I've selected my background even though it's not visible. And I'll hit Control V to paste, and there it is. Now my new layer is selected. Control T for free transform, and I'll just drag that out. I did not hold down the Shift key because I didn't really want to keep the aspect ratio. I wanted to be able to move it wherever I liked. Okay. So there's a, I mean, you probably could call that done if you wanted to. Good. Yep, we can do some blending, which is what I'm going to do with this. Now this, you can see, you still got the marks on it that says, hey, you stole this. I'm going to do the same thing. Well, this one here, I could do the Control A, Control C, Control V, but I'm going to take another shortcut, which is duplicate layer. This is the one we did last time. Where am I going to duplicate it to? Which document? The spring flowers. That's where I'm going to duplicate it to. Okay. And now if I go over to here, there it is. It's in there, but boy, is it small, which is really okay. All right, Control T to transform. Oh, it's hiding back there. So what do I want to do with this? Let's bring it up to here. Bring that down to here. Okay, now I've pretty much obliterated the other layer that's now below it. Okay, so I've got my text. I've got my...
You know your text is the recipe of the day.
Is it? I didn't know that. So we're using flour, right? Does it say use flour? Because we have flour.
The part does it.
Oh, okay, all right.
It's in a Czech language.
Oh, is it?
Czech, I haven't said.
Oh, good, all right. Serendipity. All right. So we can do a couple things here. We can change the opacity. Okay. All right. I just changed the opacity on this, and that kind of does something. But let's go back in here and change the blend modes, because that'll allow me to get some of the texture from that background, which is really what I want. Because what I want to look like here is an old document, right? So I've got a combination of things here. I kind of like that one. Now I lucked out here because if you look at the stack, I've got the the kind of grunge background. On top of that, I've got the text, And on top of that, I have the flowers. So the flowers are laying over the text, which is really what I wanted anyhow. And
What color was it? What blend was it?
that was color burn. And you can see what it did. Okay, the text is now kind of a grayish, right? It didn't really keep the black. So if you want, okay, there's something darker color. I mean, it really is, you know, what you want. I'm just kind of going through and seeing what makes sense. Yeah, I kind of like that. And we can still change the opacity. If you wanted to bring that out more, we could bring opacity up. And so I lost a lot of the background there. So what we can do again is go into here, double click on that background, and change the blend if. Right? So we can move this down here. That doesn't do a whole lot. So we can split it. That's the Alt click, and that splits the ranges. Not really making a lot of difference.
When you also move the texture on top of the text and then change the opacity of the texture?
Sure. Yep. Good point. Let's do that. Well, we'll do this and then we'll. All right. So let's take this back up to full opacity. Take this one down. Actually, let's go back here and we'll make this normal. Okay. So the background, the text, I've changed to normal and 100% opacity. Now let's work with this grunge layer here. I reverse the order, and we can change the opacity. Okay, and we can change
the opacity of the plain light.
Right.
It's sitting on top of the text layer.
Right. Kind of like that. And you may want to then go down here and change the opacity of this. You don't want to go too far because you see the little hash marks coming through. So again, it's, you know, what effect do you want? How do you want this thing to appear? There's some more emphasis on the text rather than the background. All right. So let's take a break. There's just a couple more things I want to do with this, and then we'll work with our female subject. Earlier, before the class, we were talking about camera equipment, right? And so, you know, I made the jump from, you know, a bunch of lenses and a bunch of stuff down to essentially one non-removable lens camera. And I made some sacrifices there. One of them, the ones that I originally thought was really significant was I went from shooting RAW to shooting JPEG. I really struggled. So anyhow, I documented my struggle for you, if you're interested. And I said, shooting with crap. Because, you know, if you're, you know, using whatever, $20,000 worth of camera equipment, a $600 camera can easily be considered crap. Okay. Well, I do not either. Okay, but that, I mean, if you want to read this, I've got, it's photominimalist.photography is my blog on there. And I've got several months of, that I kind of worked through this. So, I mean.
I've got a Leica fixed lens that only goes to f11, which I discovered after I bought it. But it's still okay.
Sure. I had a Panasonic that had Leica lens on it.
Leica glass?
Yeah, yeah. It's, you know, you don't get a whole lot better than that.
There's a guy in Philadelphia as part of professional photographers, and he's a lot of farm, and he leads photo walks and does various things. And he was out one day and knocked on DSLR, like the crop sensor, one of the cheaper ones, and Ned had a D4, which with a D5 does like 65 And the guy said, boy, if I had your camera, I could really do great. So he swapped with him for the day.
Yeah.
And guess who got the better picture?
Right.
The pro.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. It was a perfect.
that's right.
So,
That's what my son keeps saying.
It's like going into a professional cook and saying, you know, if I had your pots and pans and your stove and your, you know, your equipment, boy, I would be a great cook. Yeah, right.
Still burn the toast.
Right.
I was at a little girl's birthday party years ago, and the light in that place was gorgeous. It was coming through, I think, a southwestern window, slightly southwestern window. I had a cheap little point and shoot, and I just went around, and it never even used the flash.
Right.
I just went around taking pictures. They are beautiful. And
Well,
I
if
can't
you
believe I got them. They're all JPEGs. I didn't have to do anything to them.
if you've seen anything with from you know from cell phones,
Yeah, exactly.
you know, so all right, okay. So let's take this lady here. We're going to pretty much do the same kind of thing with her. I'll bring her in. Let's just pick that, and let's. Boy, do I really want to complicate myself here? Probably not. I was going to say let's put her with the tree here, but that means I got to cut the tree out too. So we already know that we're able to do those kind of things. All right. I didn't adjust this, so we'll just make a copy of it and bring it in.
it looks like she needs some, balancing on color.
She needs some happiness. Yeah. All right, so we're not going to fix her face, okay? I mean, she's probably a pretty girl, you know, but yeah. And we don't have, what is it, portrait professional that will make her into, you know.
Teenager.
Yeah, right, right.
Make her look like Taylor Swift.
Right.
Used a wide angle on her though.
Yeah, right, so we got really close. All right, so we'll do this. I'm just going to do a real quick cutout. I used the, this one here, the quick selection tool, and I didn't use color. Let's try that though. So Control D to deselect, select by color range. Okay, we're probably going to get a better job here. And that'll save us from having to go in and do the hair. Okay, because change the fuzziness on this. Now you know, see as her eyes are gone, right? Okay, so we want to go in here and localize color. Nope, don't want that. Detect faces. Let's see, do we want to do that? No. Okay, so we'll do, let's pick over here and get rid of that.
Portrait Pro doesn't work on dogs.
Now that's an insult.
No, well, he's not using Portrait Pro, but Portrait Pro, you know, does, as you said, the things with people, but it won't work. I tried with dogs, it doesn't work.
Why didn't it work?
Well, it's designed for human
Flash?
faces.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
So the real good ones, it doesn't work.
Right. Okay, so we've got
I
this.
had a really good point. Say that.
What about bearded men?
He looked like dogs.
good point, I don't know.
Do you know how those things work? And you've seen the face detection things where it does, you know, it catches, it looks for the, you know, the parameters of the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. And so it basically takes that, overlays it, and then says, you know, these eyes could be this way big. So it does that kind of stuff. Anyhow. All right, so now you can see our marching ants here. I'm going to reverse the selection and go down to Refine Edge. And we're just going to paint over some of her hair to do a better job. You want to see where, you know, where there's little spots here. That's doing a pretty good job.
Yeah.
And you use quick selection initially?
For this one, I used the color range. But, you know, between the two, I mean, this one is really simple, right? Because she was already on a white background. So I just picked the background and let it go. All right, so we can see there's some...
What have you done to the eyes?
you know, there's some issues here. You see this right here in the eyes? So let's, now we can fix these afterwards,
Oh, wow.
right? Much better, right?
Ooh. Did you add white or what?
I just repainted over it. Now I didn't even change the radius.
Okay.
It looks like she has 2 highlights in both eyes.
Yeah, well that's because those were the same gray, right? Same with her, the whites of her eyes. So now I changed the background. See, can you see that? There's a little bit of a red in there.
Yeah.
So we want to, all right, so we won't be able to get rid of that with the edge detection because we just can't. So we'll fix that later on in the mask, right? Because we can paint black in to the mask, or white, whichever. All right, we're going to do our same little trick here. New layer with layer mask. So that was what, 5 minutes? Maybe. Yeah, not even. So we got pretty good selection here. You can see we got checkerboarding in here and in here. So I'm going to go over to the mask area. Be sure that I'm black. I'm sorry, not black. Oh, I wanted a brush, not a selection. Now, do I want black or white? Well, let's see what happens here. I black, oops, not black. I did not want to get rid of, so I wanted a white. So we're going to go in here. I'm going to change the size of my brush because pretty much anywhere in her face I don't want to see through that stuff. Okay.
Laura Liz looked like she was crying too.
Yeah, she may have been. Okay. So we'll call that done. And let's see what else we have to add to her. Let's pick some of our, let's see, maybe she's crying for a reason. And we'll she looks like she's pretty, dark, so we'll do this too. Tired. Yeah, probably tired is a better choice. We'll do the original because I'm not going to edit these. All right, so put the V for move. All right, so there's my background. And there's her. Let's go ahead and put her on the background. And we'll just duplicate the layer to the JJ. Oh, yeah, to the JJ was the name of the background layer. All right, so there she is. And we'll do our free transform. And for her, I do want to hold down the Shift key and keep the proportions correct, because otherwise we get, well, we can make her a little skinnier. Huh? Right. All right. And we'll commit that by hitting Enter. Go over to our clouds, and I'll bring that up to here. Drop that in. And you're asking about, does this do a fix on the pixel? And my guess is it's using some kind of an algorithm to fix these, because you'll notice that as we bring these up here, okay, that looks pretty pixelated, but if I hit Enter, it kind of makes it better. Pardon? I hit Enter. I committed the transform. So free transform here, and then you've got these. You can either commit the change, cancel the change, or you can warp, which is kind of interesting. Okay. But we won't do this. And here's your interpolation. So it did. It used the bicubic. If you know your stuff and want to use something different, you know, try that. Bicubic is the one that I have heard of most. All right, so let's just bring this down below. This is going to be a weird thing. All right.
You don't like portraits?
You're gonna put the top back on her head.
Oh my, she looks like an angel.
A sad angel. Well, let's see. Here we got a cloud in the background here. All right.
That does.
Drop the opacity. Change the blend mode. Ooh, that's kind of cool.
I'm sorry I asked.
Lucy in the sky. There we go. All right, interesting. All right, let's go over to the mask and bring up our brush. Is this what you wanted to know?
Go ahead.
Okay.
It's wonderful.
All right, so I'm going to turn this to black. By the way, changing the colors, you can either hit this little double arrow or you can hit X on the keyboard. That'll flip them around. And let's just get rid of some of these extraneous body parts. Okay, take it out of there. All right. You wanted a face. We got a face.
Okay.
All right. So this may not be your or my idea of of a piece of art, but it's different. And
Yeah, it's good for illustration.
So she may be losing her clothes down bottom.
The allure, huh? And of course, this back here, I would probably try to blend some of this into the background, right? So we can do that with a layer mask, right down here, layer mask. Go over to here into the layer, change the opacity so that we're not brushing the whole thing out. Maybe change the size of the brush. These kind of things, I really don't like hard edges all that much, so. Get rid of that. Okay. So for whatever that's worth.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I know. Not what you wanted, but.
Always be careful what you ask for.
Yeah, really.
You may get it right, exactly.
All right. There was one that I wanted to do that was kind of. Okay, so here's, let's do this one here. Anybody recognize that? You should. It's at the Arboretum up in Asheville. It's in their miniatures collection.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Like the bonsai stuff?
It's the bonsai, yeah. So I thought this was kind of interesting because taken out of context, I mean, if it didn't have the camera up there in the top, you probably wouldn't be able to tell what this was. So let's go over to here and we'll just, I don't think I want to save her. Okay. All right. So let's take this one here and we'll just edit in. This is another one, fortunately it's got a pretty good set of background color. So we can use any of a number of tools to get rid of it, basically. Or actually it's got some nice texture. So maybe we really don't want to get rid of it completely. What I do want to get rid of is the camera. All right, so we will just, a couple ways to do it. Let's see if the eraser tool works. Oops, eraser. Yep. Where is it? Eraser, that's it. Oh, not what I wanted at all. All right, let's just do a selection then. Use the lasso and go around it. And hit delete. Content aware. Should do a pretty good job. Yeah, kinda. Kinda. Yeah, kinda. Let's try it again. Come on. It doesn't, yeah, clone probably would work better. You're right. Yep. So let's see, clone. We'll pick from over here. So clone, you have to pick your source. So Alt or Option, click over there, and then start painting in. There we go. Good idea. Okay. So now I've got rid of the camera. Let's go over back here and, yep.
If you wanted to extend that shaft of light or whatever it is.
This one here, or that one?
The one that passes behind the camera.
Right?
I would just do a clone.
And clone, yeah, clone would probably be the way to do it. Right. So if we just go back here. All right. So let's see, we're in clone. So we'd pick down here. Oh, get rid of the selection. Alt select. Okay, so the clone tool.
You got content aware.
No, I'm in clone. There we go, kind of. Yeah, it's imperfect. Yeah. All right. It is what it is, right? And we're going to mess it up anyhow. Okay. So what do we want to use for background on this? We could do something kind of normal and just do an overlay and use one of our, like this right here. And then just bring that to that layer, drop it in. Control T to transform. And commit. And then do our normal changes. Okay, so just opacity really isn't going to cut it for this. We're going to need to change the blend mode. But since that's a lot of gray in there, we may actually do better with a blend if. Maybe. See if splitting them works. Not really. Underlying layer. And we haven't really worked with this one here, but it brings out. So when you're using the underlying layer, you're controlling what the colors are in the background. And in this case, the background is gray, so that actually could be okay. Doesn't seem to be. All right. Right. So I think our best option here is going to be blending modes. Yeah, I'm not liking it. Let's go the other way here. So we're getting a little bit of the color through, depending. That's kind of interesting. Okay, so this one right here, remember I talked about heavy-handed and detailed? This is a heavy-handed edit, right? It's just kind of a, take these two and stick them together and see what works. Sometimes it works, but you lose control. It does, right. And so I find myself wasting a lot of time going through these kind of things because I tend to see things that maybe I like, but maybe they're a little bit too far gone, right? So that's definitely fantasy land there. Okay. So let's just let's go up to here and we'll just use one of our other tricks and.
All right, you had that you came to that point. Can you edit that what you got by adding dark lights or whatever?
Sure, sure. To either side. Let's.
You could do that.
Right. So I'm going to do a color selection here, just because I've got. Because a lot of this is gray, right? But unfortunately, so is a lot of the tree. So this is going to be a really difficult one. So even if I select on the tree, yep. All right, so that's not going to work. So even down to luminosity, didn't really give me much. Okay, so we'll call this one not worth the effort.
If you're doing illustrations for a book,
Yeah,
that's
what I'm
great.
thinking. Yeah.
Right.
Secret Garden, Harry Potter, something
Right.
like that.
Yes,
Right.
As
exactly.
far as photography is concerned, it's kind of...
Yeah, and as you can see, my goal is not always photography, right? Not the realistic. I'm looking at, doing something as an expression. Sometimes it works. This one here was, I don't know if I showed this one before. I don't.
So Scott, where do you keep your collection of textures?
I have them in Lightroom.
You have them in Lightroom?
Right, I've got them keyworded as texture or background. And so this is not my Lightroom catalog. I mean, not all of it, but so if I go in here and I put in, okay, so I do have some in here. So that's an easy way for me to get to them. All right, and it's part of my workflow, so it stays.
I keep a folder, Photoshop textures, and then there's probably 20 subfolders in there, watercolors, grunge,
Right.
metals, woods, whatever.
Right. And I have that as well. But since my primary
When you're downloading from the web and whatever,
right.
That's sort of the easy way to drop them
right.
into the right folder.
Right. And then keywording, helps a lot. But yes, that's where I got most of these.
It's the organization folder.
Yep. So this one here, Let's just bring this one into Photoshop. This is kind of an interesting set of clouds. This one has already got some textures in it. And get rid of our filter here. And this was one of those that I used wherever it is. Let's try it on this one.
Yeah, I tried it. I put them in Lightroom and whatever, and I kept sort of stumbling with myself. I wasn't really going from Lightroom into Photoshop and back to Lightroom. I was working in Photoshop, period. And so I created a set of folders that support references for Photoshop. Works either way. I mean, to see them, it's nice in Lightroom. You can just, you can just scroll and see thousands of textures.
Right. And if you have them keyworded right, it's like going into your folders. I mean, you can keyword them the same as your folders, and then you've got, like you say, you just scroll through them, and you can keep narrowing it down. You can put dozens of keywords in any image. So I think that gets a little confusing. But if you put 2 or 3 in it, as the same as your folder structure. Also,
do you pretty much purchase backgrounds and textures, or do you create?
I have created some, but I find that it's better if I download them. Yeah, I'll just show you this site. This here that I sent you to, Photo Minimalist, is part of DeviantArt. DeviantArt is great. I mean, it's got more than you want to know. It's a great forum, but you can also you can search for stuff, such as down here, search for textures. And the nice thing is that most of the people on here put them for free download and for free use. If you go to purchase some, number one, they get kind of expensive, and I end up not using, most of them. But here, I just, this simple search here.
Mostly free.
Yeah, some of them are paid for, but most of them are free. And there's certainly, you will find more here than you will ever use. And since they're defined as textures, people are making them of the proper size. So you saw the first set of clouds I brought in, I don't remember where I got it, but it was, 420 by 280 or something like that. Fortunately, because of the kind of the work that I'm putting it to, the resolution doesn't really matter. Okay, and the free transform fixed most of the problems with it. But let's just look at this one here. Textures. Yep, download 1.1 meg. 2 medium-sized random cloud theme textures. Okay. Okay. So anyhow, that's another resource. Here's one that's kind of neat. Memories, textures. Yep. That's 12 megs. I don't know what all is in here. So lots of things. Lots of free. In general, if I need something, first thing I'll do is I'll go to DeviantArt. If I don't find it there, I'll go into Google. And just a tip for Google. If you go into, here's how I found the faces. I don't want to talk to you. All right, if you go into images, so there's faces. Now, these have different usage rights. So if you go here to search tools, you can look for size, which can be important, so large. Usage rights is really important, especially for these. Labeled for reuse with modification. That means whoever put these up said, use them for whatever you want, right? Creative Commons. So, you know, you got to be careful what you look at on here. Some of it'll break your face. Okay, so anyhow, any